Hi. This is a continuing series. Oh, this is part 4 now. Wow, part 4. And it's, I don't know how far I'm into this thing. But anyway, when I read the Mohammedans' words, I'll be using this side of my face and I'll be using a mock foreign accent. I would say Arabic, but it's not an Arabic accent. Because it's more like a mixture of Arabic and Chinese. And when I read my words, I'll be using this side of my face. Okay. So the better looking side of my face will be using my words. Okay. So, all right. And the ugly goes, okay. All right. I say this. When he said all that, it was during the time he had been made a quote, little lower than the angels, so he could die on the cross. I bet you think I believe Jesus is still a little lower than the angels, true? And with that, he says, laughing at a little lower than the angels. Who degraded him to be lower than the angels? Keeps on getting better and better. Come out of it and listen to Jesus. And stop misinterpreting his words to justify your silly beliefs. Worship the Father as Jesus himself worshipped. It's very simple. The angel says Jesus was made a little lower than the angels. I'll let you guess who I think lowered Jesus to that status, so he could die on the cross the way the angel says. By the way, does Allah ever call itself Father in either the quote clear signs or the Hadith? And there's no response from him when I say that. Then another time I say, you're right. So why wasn't he stoned to death? Yeah, why wasn't David stoned to death in the psalm the Psalms when he said when he was talking about the only begotten Son? I mean, if he was calling himself the only begotten Son, how come he wasn't stoned to death? And then another time I say, and he didn't answer me, but then I said, Paul says Jews are blinded to the truth. They might have read Psalms and seen it as Muslims see it, and not realize that David was being blasphemous if he wasn't being prophetic about someone else, which Christians believe to be Jesus in the millennial kingdom, that David was possibly unknowingly talking about. Then I say, by the way, you raise a good question. Why wasn't David stoned to death for saying he was the only begotten Son of God? If he was truly saying that he was that only begotten Son of God. I made a video asking Jews why God had Moses use an image of a snake as a successful snake bite medicine in the Torah, and there was no answer from them. The Jews didn't answer it. Maybe I'd get the same silence from them if David wasn't prophetic like Christians believe him to be with that only begotten Son psalm. Then that gets him saying, yet you both study from the same book. Enough said. Quote, and the Jews say the Christians follow nothing true. And the Christians say the Jews follow nothing true. Yet both are readers of the scripture. Al-Baqarah 115. Did you know that the Sunnis, Shiites, and Sufis study from the same book? Oh, by the way, I, as the Christian version of the people of the book, never say Jews follow nothing true, because for one thing, the Old Testament, the part of the book that Jews follow, is not nothing at all, is not nothing to me at all. So that Al-Baqarah 113 missed the mark, with me at least. And he didn't respond there. But then another time he said, "Ha ha! You retract your statement, and you retracted your statement. I see. Well, stop confusing yourself. I will. So, well, stop confusing yourself. I will say, old man." Well, I do what Allah does. I abrogate what I've written for something better, like old Al says he does with the clear signs. See Surah 2, verse 106, and another scripture about abrogation in the Quran. By the way, I have to take off now. Feel free to tell others you kicked my patootie here, okay? I want an audience with you. Of course, that's telling him to lie, so it's probably not a good thing that I said that. Anyway, no need to. You did it all on your own. It's sad how desperate you are to get viewers. Why would anyone be desperate to expose a faith that has Quran 9, 111, 38, and 39 in it? Put a smiley face. Here we go again, taking ayats out of context. Try reading the surah and then get back to me. And we can discuss when and what those ayats are referring to. He put a smiley face. If I took a surah out of context, put it in context for me, okay? What does it really say in English? No, you took the ayat out of context. I want you to read the surah and then come back, and then we will discuss the surah in whole. How does that sound? How did I take it out of context? If I ask again, put how it's supposed to really sound in English, okay? By the way, are you saying Quran 9, 111, 38, and 39 aren't telling Muslims they risk being replaced and threatened with a painful doom by Allah if they don't go forth in Allah's cause, killing and being killed? If so, how is it really supposed to sound in those three scriptures? How's it supposed to really sound? Why do you, like all Islamophobes, never mention the whole story? Again, I suggest next time you read and find out what and when those verses were addressing. Did you read that surah as I asked you to do? Oh, I've read it many times and in many different versions. When you combine them, they threaten the Mohammedan with a painful doom if they aren't terrorists for old Al. By the way, I'm not an Islamophobe. I will call myself Islamo-leery, though. Then he changed the subject. Again, Paul says not Jesus. Like you believe it was Jibril saying not Muhammad, true? Oh, he says, again, Paul says not Jesus. Like you believe it was Jibril saying not Muhammad, true? Anyhow, never said Muslims said David blasphemed. Because, see, this is why I say you have zero understanding of Islam. If so, then why did David call himself the only begotten Son of God if he wasn't being prophetic or foreshadowing of Jesus in the Psalms? I said your book says that, not the Quran. Where did I say it was the Quran saying that? Nowhere in Quran does it say David blasphemed. No, but you feel he was talking of himself being the only begotten Son of God, and you feel that's blasphemous or not? If it's not blasphemous, how come it isn't? How come it isn't to call yourself the only begotten Son of God if it's not blasphemous? Indeed, David was a prophet of God. Just this way, same way Jesus was a prophet of God. Are you saying only begotten Son of God means prophet? How does it mean that? Scripture, please. God does not talk such a way about his prophets. So David called himself the only begotten Son of God. So David called himself the only begotten Son of Allah because amazing how you can pick and choose on how read and understand the book. Okay, for you to do it, but not me, true? Still picking and choosing, I see. You break up the words, and I leave most of what I said unaddressed, disregarded like you do with Bible. What have I disregarded? Can you respond without taqqiya-ing? By the way, you explained it the way all Muslims try to explain it. But he tried to say, oh, there's nothing about taqqiya-ing. What's this thing about taqqiya-ing? And I said, oh, you explained it the way all Muslims try to explain it, because he was trying to explain how taqqiya means a certain thing, you know. That doesn't mean lying, except it means you can try to defend, keep from dying. I say, oh, you explained it the way all Muslims try to explain it, al-taqqiya. Doing taqqiya in the process. By the way, I'm the one who created the word taqqiya-ing, just like I created Islam O'Leary, the word Islam O'Leary. Just type into your web browser. When it comes to taqqiya-ing, it's now an English word meaning to ask a Muslim, you aren't lying for Allah, are you? And no response there from him. Then another time he says, let me ask something before I leave. Why was that comment removed? Says comment removed by author. Because I was just so scared to think I could answer it. Which thing was removed? By the way, hello from Hollywood. I went to Hollywood. You know which comment you removed? It scared? It's not that serious. Let me tell you. Anyone that reads your comments can see all of you doing is mocking and insulting, are not bringing forth anything factual. After all your sources were Yahoo and Google, and I forgot David Wood, Sam Shamoun, and their likes. How am I being insulting? Or is exposing what is in the Quran and Hadith insulting to you? You didn't write the Quran and Hadith, so how am I being insulting of you by exposing what is in them? By the way, if I'm not being factual, then I'm posting something wrong. Yeah, by the way, if I'm not being factual, then I'm posting something wrong. What have I posted wrong? Can you respond without taqqiya-ing? And I say, by the way, I don't remove comments. Which comment is missing? If it is, put it back and I'll answer it. I need to work unlike you. We will continue later on tonight, God willing. You mean inshallah? Wait, that's what probably a Mexican Muslim says. Okay, no response. Which gets him saying, silly old man. Let's pick up on this later on tonight, God willing, because I need to do something called work in the meantime. I say, I'm back. Right there is what I mean. See, this is the difference between you and I. You throw insults, and me, on the other hand, can't and won't do such things because of my faith. So we really have nothing more to say to each other beyond this. All I can say is, may the one and only true God put a light in heart and show you the truth. Is calling someone a silly old man not your faith? If it isn't, then I'm questioning a Muslim going against Islam. True? I'm sorry I'm sorry to calling you old. I apologize. But you are silly most of the time, though. As silly as Mitt at the Obama roast last night. Was he silly? By the way, how am I confused when I decide to write something better? If you read the, quote, clear signs handed down, even Old Owl does that with its book, the Quran, that is supposedly on a well-guarded tablet in heaven due to the reality of, quote, clear signs 2:106. And another scripture that talks of Old Owl substituting a scripture with a better scripture, abrogation it is called. So, if I'm confused for substituting abrogating, then so is the most